Hey everybody, welcome back. Today we're going to be working on my 2015 Ram 3/4 ton. This is the gas 4-wheel drive model, but let's just go ahead and let's get started. So a while back I did a video on the front brakes of this truck, and it was about 70,000 miles ago. There's been a lot of comments down in the video and a lot of different tips and pointers that I'm going to try to use while doing this. So if you have anything else that you want me to try, make sure you stick it in the comments. So when you come in here, you actually have two different bolts. You can do this a couple different ways. You have the actual caliper slide here, which is this smaller one. And then you have the caliper bracket. Well, because I'm changing the rotor, I'm going to pull this caliper bracket. This is a 24 millimeter socket. If you had a breaker bar, that would be perfect, but I don't have a breaker bar, so I'm just going to do it with this ratchet here and a little cheater pipe that's going to give me a little more leverage. So to make that a little easier to access, went in there and turn the wheel all the way to the driver's side, and this is going to allow me to get in here and pull this off. We can't forget our bottom one down here. We're going to do the same thing. All right, so just supporting the caliper, pull those bolts. Then I'm going to set this up here, trying to not let it pinch anything, and just kind of keep that up out of the way. You can see here it's starting to have a little bit of an uneven wear pattern on these, so that's also why I'm going to service these calipers and lube up those slides and replace all these little boots that I need to. So to get these stud clips off, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to come in behind it just with a pick. If you don't have a pick, that's fine. You can just get in here with the flathead screwdriver. So I just cut them and then pull them off. Once you have all the stud clips off, your rotor should come right off. And remember, it's heavy, so brace yourself. Now, if you live in any type of wet climate with salt on the roads or ice or anything, you may have to bang on this a little bit to get it off. So don't be mad because mine comes off nice and easy. So we got our new rotor. I'm just going to pull it out of the bag. And these are labeled as directional, so just want to keep that in mind. Now, there is one thing to understand about these stud clips. They're put on by the factory to secure the rotor during assembly, and they don't really serve any safety purpose. They just make it easier to, move this thing down the assembly line without it bouncing around and doing that. So we're just going to go ahead. We're going to put our bracket back on here, our caliper bracket, and then we'll go ahead and start taking that apart to service it and put the new brake pads in. So when we're putting this back on, it's very important to pay attention to your hoses. You don't want those getting twisted. You don't want to get in a bind. So just take your time. And assembly is just reverse of disassembly. All right, you want to make sure that you get that tightened back up to your torque specs. And now we're going to pull this off. So now that we have that brake caliper bracket back on, we're going to pull these caliper slides out. And this will let us remove this inner part of the caliper along with the brake pads to where we can get to those, all the hardware, lube this up, check our boots, and yeah, shouldn't be too difficult. Now, this is a 15 millimeter bolt. I haven't really been saying a lot of sizes of things, mainly because yours may vary. There we go. And again, I want to position this to where it doesn't put our hose in a bind. Right, here's our old brake pad. So before we put our new brake pads in here, we have to compress these pistons. And you can do that a couple different ways. In the past, I've made bars that go across here. They make these little contraptions here that don't work very well at all. Or you can just use the old brake pad and just a C-clamp here. And I'm just going to come in here like this, go to the back side of the caliper. Might need a bigger one. Nope, that's going to work. And then I just tighten this down. Okay. On newer models, you don't necessarily have to remove the cap on the master cylinder. That's because the cap has an expanding diaphragm in it that takes up space as the fluid goes down, and then it collapses as you push it back in. If you don't have that in your brake fluid reservoir, you might open the cap so that it can push back up in there. And in the future, I will be doing a video on brake fluid replacement. Everybody gets mad that I don't really change my brake fluid, but again, we don't have a lot of contaminants here, and the brake fluid checks always come back fine. But I am sitting at 140,000 miles now on this truck, and so I will be changing out that brake fluid. All right, and every once in a while, you'll see that you collapse this one a little bit more than this one, so I'm just going to change positions here. And if it really gives you trouble, just get yourself another one of these. You can buy these all day long at Harbor Freight. They're like $2 each. If you wait until they have a sale, then you can get like a free flashlight that you can see I probably need because the lighting is very poor in this dark garage. We are having a bit of a crazy storm with rains coming in, 50-mile-an-hour winds. You hear trash cans flying down the street. That's why I'm not doing this in my driveway like usual. So once they're collapsed on both sides, we can just take these off, take this out, and you can see how far back those pistons are in there. All right, and we're ready to start going through and getting this thing serviced. So now we're gonna replace our slides. This one you can see, it's a little stiff, but it moves back and forth, and this one is completely stuck in place. Okay, so there's a boot on these, and you can buy a whole kit. So this here, right, it's got 2 new slides, 2 new bolts for that, and then you can also buy boots. You can see it's got a new set of boots in here. So we're going to pull this off on both of these. This one might be a little more difficult. All right, let those come right out. This one, might have to loosen him up a little bit. Oh, it's going. All right, went ahead and removed it so I'm not banging around trying to hit my new rotor. Instead of taking the rotor off and get it up here somewhere easy where I can work with it. Now that I got it smoking, I have an idea. I can't really get on it like I want to. It's getting all banged up. I'm just trying to see if I can spin it. That's all I want to do. I just want to spin it. If I can get it spinning, I can get it out. There we go. Now we got to spin it. Success! All right. Get her all lubed up. Ready to go for the new one. Just gonna clean this up, let it cool slowly, and then we'll put it back on. All right, you guys can say what you want. Light me up in the comments. I don't really care, but I've got some brake part cleaner, and this is a 45 caliber brass brush for, you know, cleaning the barrel of a with a handgun. So I'm just going to clean that up. All right, then we'll just wipe it out. Sometimes you got to think outside the box. So this is what happens when you don't replace the boots. And as soon as it's, you know, cool enough to touch with your fingers, you can put this back on. But when you don't replace those boots, this is kind of what happens. Water gets in there, you get some, you know, intrusion, a little bit of corrosion. Things get hot, they evaporate out. And then you run into what we just ran into. Just applying some new brake caliper slide grease. I just want to coat it. Then I'm going to wipe off the excess clumps, just kind of like this. Just wipe that off. All right, I don't want this stuff everywhere. There we go. You want the new one? Slide just like it's doing. Right. I'm going to poke that down in there like that. That way when it does come back up, it's going to be captured inside this boot. There we go. If you've made it this far and you're enjoying it, make sure you hit that like button. And if you want to stick around for some of my other content, make sure you subscribe. All right, there we go. Look at that. Oh, way better. Nice. All right, we're going to do this to the other side, and we'll bolt this back on. All right, now that we're back where we started, we're going to put our anti-rattle clips in. Flat side goes up towards the rotor, and they just snap back into place like your old ones were removed. All right, then we just take our new brake pads, finagle those on in there with the tabs going in this way, and the contour of the rotor facing the contour of the brake pad. All right, once we get those in there, then we can take our brake caliper and it will bolt right in with our new bolts. All right, so we screw those in. Might have to hold this in place while you do it. See, otherwise it wants to spin because we cleaned them up so well. And I added just the tiniest dot of anti-seize. Just so we don't have an issue with that in the future. Again, torque these to your desired specs. Click. And we're all set. Before we button everything up, just gonna give it a quick spray down front and back. Well, you just saw we took a 1 hour job and turned it into about 3 hours, but hopefully that gives you some good pointers on what to do, especially if you do have a seize caliper bolt. If I missed anything, just make sure to stick it in the comments. I still have another side to do. The other side should be the same way. Even if I do have an issue, well, we know how to fix that now. So I'm going to do that other side, get all that done. Remember, whenever you go to back out, first you want to pump your brakes, get everything all back and those brake pads seated on the rotors. And you need to take these out and you need to seat them. The way that I do it is I like to find a nice long open road. If I can get there without having to get on my brakes too hard, you want to make sure that wherever you go, that you don't like have to get on your brakes too hard and then just sit there with your brakes, you know, squeezed up against your rotor. So if you do live in a big town and you know, or in a city or something, you know, you can do this going stoplight to stoplight. I like to do it if that's the case, and every time I do stop at a stoplight, I like to put it back into park so that the brake pads aren't squeezed up against the rotor and, you know, trying to stick. Otherwise, you go out to a long open road, and I like to get up to about 60 miles an hour, slow down as hard as I can without locking up, and slow down about 10 miles an hour, and start up and do it again. Do that about, you know, 8 times or so, and I've never had any issues with seating brake pads that way. It's going to burn off any grease, any oils that you have on. If you couldn't get it quite as clean as you want, or if there's any, scarring or issues from shipping, or, the slip of a hammer, it'll kind of bite into that and deal with that. So if you have any questions, again, put that in the comments, and make sure you hit that like button. If this was really helpful and you want to send a super thanks, that button's also down below. Channel memberships are active, so make sure you check those out for some extra perks and behind the scenes. And as always, make sure you subscribe if you haven't done so yet. Okay, I will catch you on the next one. Thanks for watching.